Oh, that was a must-needed victory, and the Golden State Warriors pulled off, quite possibly. Sorry, I'm losing my voice here. That's not a good thing on a broadcast. One of the biggest games of the season. And I've got Kevin Danna, the voice of the Santa Cruz Warriors, sometimes Golden State Warriors, sometimes the LA Clippers, who may not be as big of a threat as they were literally just a day ago. We're going to talk about all this stuff next. There's 8 games remaining before the postseason starts, and the Golden State Warriors, folks, are actually in a good position. We'll break all that down and so much more next. This is Locked On Warriors.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Warriors your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get podcasts. You can follow the voice of the Santa Cruz Warriors, sometimes the Golden State Warriors, and a lot of other broadcasts and teams on Twitter at Kevo408. You can follow me, Cyrus Saatsaz, on Twitter at DogSurfRoadshow. Kevin, if I told you or anyone else that was watching this game from beginning to end that the leading scorer was Jonathan Kuminga, a player that I always say great things happen when he plays, I don't think you'd be surprised. The kid stepped up. He's growing before our very eyes. And the Golden State Warriors won their second road game of the season, a huge game when it comes to playoff seedings, defeating the Dallas Mavericks on a game winner by Steph and Curry. You could call that shot that potentially, even though technically it might not be the case. 127-125. Great for everyone in the chat to join us. It's a live show. Kevin, great to see you, brother. How are you doing? And what is your immediate reaction to that thrilling victory?
How am I? I am relieved. I am also in need of a haircut, as Ed Garcia points
I'm bad.
out.
Yeah.
I've been putting that. It's been 4 months, but the ways in which they lost at the beginning of this road trip, Clippers, Hawks, the Atlanta game especially, and then Memphis back into the back-to-back, 36 and all, 36 and 36 again, back at 500. Knew you were going to probably beat Houston. This was the one. There were 2 road games they needed to win on this road trip, and they won one of those road games. And this game against Dallas being that, because now you have the tiebreaker against the Mavericks. You went 3-1 against Dallas this year, and also it just puts that much more space, and it's not a lot of space, but between them and like teams that could potentially. Just gives the teams below them more work they have to do to catch Golden State. And I would be, especially after this win, and considering you have, 5 of your last 8 at home, it would be very tough for the Warriors to fall out of the play-in.
Yeah.
I think, they basically, if they go 2-6 the rest of the way, they're going to be at least the 10, you would think. But obviously they want to do much better than 2-6, and they should do much better. But just this win gives them a smidge of breathing room.
Yep.
And yes, as Jill says, it's a confidence boosting win.
Absolutely. This was just a game they sorely needed. And the very end was weird. The impression I got, let me know what you think. This was literally the impression I got watching the last minute or two of the game, that I was worried for the Splash Brothers. Klay Thompson he didn't really look himself. And there was that one fast break near the end where he missed the layup by just getting there really late, and the ball ricocheted off the bottom of the backboard. I was concerned for one split second there. I saw Steph and Curry not really being his aggressive self. And I was looking at the Splash Brothers. There was also a defensive play where the rookie, Hardy, I think his last name is, with the Mavericks. He made a 3. Where Klay Thompson sort of ran to him, but didn't even lift his arms up to contest the shot. I was a little worried there, man. Thankfully, it all resolved itself. And Klay, I feel resolved itself thanks to his defense on Luka. I want to talk about that in just a moment. But what was your feeling, man? What were you seeing there in the last minute or two? There was a range of emotions running through my head, in addition to just analyzing what's going on. The Splash Brothers were worrying me for a moment, and then all of a sudden they stepped up a minute later. What was your read of that last minute or two?
I thought Draymond Green saved the day.
Yes.
I mean, he had 2 monster shot contests within the last 2 minutes with 5 fouls. no one plays better defense with 5 fouls than Draymond Green. And tonight was like the shining example of that. I'm also remembering game 3 in the Denver series in the first round last year when he poked it away from Jokic. I'm pretty sure he was at 5 fouls when that happened. He just continually does that. Like, all right, he's going to commit some fouls, but when the chips are on the table, when you got to go all in, you got ace king offsuit, and you got 20 blinds, you just got to put it all in the middle. That's when he's at his best. I mean, the contesting late from him saved the day. And like with that Klay fall away, like, or that, when he tried to lay it up off balance, I'm not sure what else he, like, ideally say pull it out. I'm not sure he was in a position to pull it out. Like, I think he was going to the ground, and it's like, I either throw this up and get it thrown potentially, or I just turn it over.
Yeah, I thought he could have passed it, but yeah, it was a crazy play. Sorry to interrupt.
I don't think there was any, but like that was who was there to pass it to?
Right. Yeah, I hear what you're saying. Yeah, it was just a crazy play. Let me ask you this, man. A lot of people have been complaining about Klay Thompson and his defense. I have not been on that train. Actually, since the NBA Finals last year, it was either Game 3 or Game 4 where I saw Klay Thompson playing sound defense. I still think he's fine defensively. I don't see people blowing past him. He might not be the same defender he was, pre-injury, but I also don't see him as a liability out there. And at the end of the game, Luka Doncic got a switch. I think Draymond was guarding him originally, and the Mavericks were able to pull off a switch because of the screen. But the switch led to Klay defending him, and I didn't sweat it a bit. I thought he'd hold his own. He stayed in front of Luka. He forced a bad shot. Do you feel the similar in terms of Klay's defense? Because I think his defense is fine. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's not something that's been glaring. Like, I don't think he's he's not the top defensive option that he used to be.
Right.
Like, now with Wiggins gone, like, Kuminga's that guy right now. And Kuminga, I thought, did a really nice job on Luka Doncic for the most part. Was he like 11 of 27 from the field? Yeah, so he scored 30 points, but it came on 27 shots.
Mm-hmm.
And he hassled him into 2 of 10 3-point shooting. Like, he just didn't get a lot of clean looks. Now, he had 17 assists. He was getting doubled and he was making them pay.
Yeah.
But I mean, Kuminga just getting more and more impressed with him by the day. And he is playing so well right now. But
Dude,
but like, to answer your question with respect to Klay's defense, like, I don't think it's completely fallen off a cliff. Maybe it's not where it was. It's not something that, like, I've really noticed. And tonight, I didn't think it was super noticeable either. So
yeah, I hear you, man. I hear you. I just thought that was a huge sequence at the very end. His D on Luka. Luka did, you're right, gets 17 assists, which is absolutely absurd. It's just, I don't watch Luka a lot. And I forgot how much he complains to the refs. That dude whines every play. Every single time a call goes against him or the Mavericks, he's complaining. It's absolutely insane, man. I don't know if I've ever seen anyone else bitch about ref calls at that clip in my life. It's really crazy. Anyways, Jonathan Kuminga, who is, to me, looking more and more like how Kawhi Leonard emerged as a player with the San Antonio Spurs. Kawhi Leonard, in just his second year with the Spurs, was on the team when they unfortunately lost in 7 games. I say unfortunately, it doesn't really matter. In the NBA Finals to the Miami Heat. Then the following year, his third year, he's the NBA Finals MVP. I'm kind of seeing this level of growth from Kuminga in his second year. Kuminga, I believe, was younger than Kawhi in year 2. Given he's only 20 years old, he doesn't turn 21 until October. His stat line tonight, 9 of 11 shooting. He was fantastic from beyond the arc, 2 for 3. Finished the game with a team high 22 points. He only committed 3 personal fouls in those 30 minutes. He was playing great defense, I thought. Only had 1 turnover, added 2 steals. It was just an exemplary game. He was literally the best player for the Golden State Warriors tonight. It's just an absolute marvel seeing him grow before our very eyes. When we come back, Dan, Kevin, I'd love to get your feelings on who you see Kuminga possibly growing into. It was just an episode ago where Charlie Walter and I We're talking about his potential, his future. Would love to get your opinion on that because Kuminga is literally turning into him right before us. And I also want to know if you agree or disagree with me on his shooting form, because I've been glowing and praising his shooting for a little while now. I love his stroke. I know the release is a little awkward looking given how high it is, but I finally found who it compares to. And it's not an NBA player. It's not a college player. It's a certain high school player. And I'll reveal who that is in just a moment when we come back. And I'd love to know, Kevin, if you agree with me or not. First, I got to give some love to Ultimate GM, one of our newer sponsors. What a way to distract yourself from the rigor, from the mundaneness of life. You can turn into Bob Myers. I'm geeked out by it. And I'm sure anyone else who's played this game is similarly geeked out by playing Ultimate Pro Basketball GM, the mobile game that allows you to become an NBA GM and manage your own basketball franchise. Your dream can come true of being a basketball GM simply by downloading the game. You can manage every strategic aspect of your team. You can play through the season, lead your team to glory. You're responsible for hiring the right coaches and assistants, trading and training players, making draft picks, navigating your franchise through free agency and the draft. And get this, Locked On Warriors listeners get a 100% free boost to their franchise if you use the promo code Locked On, LOCKEDON, in the game store. So make sure to check it out. That's LOCKEDON, Locked On. That's a promo code. To download the game, just visit probasketballgm.com, scan the code right below us right there, or look it up on the app stores. Again, that's probasketballgm.com. Ultimate Basketball GM. Start your dynasty and draft Jonathan Kuminga today.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Warriors your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get podcasts. You can follow Kevin Danna, the voice of the Santa Cruz Warriors, the voice of the LA Clippers sometimes, the voice of the Golden State Warriors, the voice of Victor Wembanyama's team who plays in France. I mean, you're all over the place. You're doing the Pac-12. I don't know what you're not doing, Kevin. You can follow Kevin Danna on Twitter at Kevo408. Again, you can follow me, Cyrus Saatsaz, on Twitter at DogSurfRoadshow. Jimmy Chitwood, my friend. That is who Jonathan Kuminga's shooting stroke reminds me of. Jimmy Chitwood from the movie Hoosiers. I see a similarity there. Do you think I'm crazy? And who does Jonathan Kuminga's remind you of in general? Where is his potential? How amazing could this player become? Your thoughts?
I'm laughing inside because I know exactly what the response is going to be because I've had this conversation with a few people before.
Okay.
I have not seen Hoosiers.
Oh, shit.
I know.
Wow. Okay.
I know.
Right.
Like it. So here's the thing, and this is a really stupid reason to not see a movie. Came out in what, the 80s, right? I was born in 86, and I don't like going back and seeing old movies. I like special effects. I like lasers. And
so The Godfather is not a movie you're
like
going to watch?
flying cars. No, so during the pandemic, I went back and watched all the Godfathers. Fantastic movies. I thought Godfather 3 was a lot better than people made it out to be.
Mm-hmm.
People say they hate it. I thought it was pretty good. Maybe it's not the first or second, but it's still good. Yeah.
Okay.
But,
all right. So you don't know what I'm talking about then.
I know who Jimmy Chitwood is. I know the name because
he's a star player for the fictional Hickory High School.
Hickory
I don't know.
High, yeah. So I know he's Hickory High and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But what was your other question about Jonathan Kuminga?
Is there anyone you compare him to? Is there anyone that you could see him turning into in the future, that like a current or former player that maybe he bears a similarity to, or is he just completely on his own and just his own identity and you don't compare him to anyone?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not really good with comps, but I've heard a certain reporter, and I'm pretty sure I remember it was this reporter, but for the sake of like not knowing if this take of his is like out there or not, I'm not gonna like say the reporter. Jaylen Brown is the name I've heard with respect to Jonathan Kuminga before. So I mean, I could see that. Like, I don't also, yeah, I don't. It's A, too early. He's 20
Yeah.
years old and stuff. But B, you talk about his 3-point. After tonight, he's 36% from
Yeah.
three.
I'm telling you, man, Jimmy Chitwood.
And it's after a horrendous start from downtown. Like, couldn't hit the backside of a barn to start the season from deep. Like, he has really picked it up. I'm just watching the highlights of Hawks Timberwolves game. Is that tonight? They're showing.
I don't know. We're gonna talk about the standings in just a moment because there's only 8 games remaining in the season, and this win was huge. I mean, the Warriors now have the tiebreaker over the Mavericks in case they do finish in a tie. I'm just reading all the people that all the other players that people in the chat are comparing Kuminga to. I'm seeing like Ron Artest. I'm seeing Jill Espina writes Charles Barkley. That's I don't see that at all. Andre Iguodala, yeah, maybe. But again, Kuminga has a shot. Like Kuminga is it could turn into a legitimate shooter, as you just mentioned. 36% from 3, and that number is going up. And I'm telling you, dude, he shoots like Jimmy Chitwood. You got to watch Hoosiers now, man. You got to come on.
I know, yeah. It's.
I mean, you're a basketball junkie. It's
apparently the best basketball movie ever made. That's what everyone says. I loved He Got Game. I love Semi-Pro. I'm trying to think. Basketball Diaries. I liked all those movies. But one more. God, what was I going to say? Forget it. I can't remember. That's
all right. But by the way, and there's a few questions in the chat I'm going to get to. Someone wanted your opinion on Guy Santos. We'll address that. We'll address that in a moment. Someone else asked about the financial implications of Andrew Wiggins if he doesn't come back to play next year. I would have to do some research on that, and I'll ask you as well. But this one I want to address right now. JFR writes, have you heard about Mark Cuban protesting this result because of the Looney basket? I heard the broadcasters mentioning something like that. I was watching the ESPN broadcast. I don't know if Fitz and Kalena addressed it. Did you see that at all? And like, what does that mean? I mean,
So I'm going to read the tweet he put out.
Okay.
For those wondering about the play with 1:54 to go in the third quarter. So remember when the Dallas Mavericks forgot to defend like that one inbound, like where it was just 5-on-0 and they got a layup in the third quarter? All right, so this is the play he's talking about. Let me explain what happened. The refs called Mavs ball. The announcer announced it. Then there was a timeout. During the timeout, the official changed the call and never told us. Then when they saw us line up as if it were our ball, he just gave the ball to the Warriors. Never said a word to us. They got an easy basket. Crazy that it would matter in a 2-point game. Worst officiating non-call mistake possibly in the history of the NBA. All they had to do was tell us, and they didn't. I was watching the NBC Sports Bay Area broadcast, and I specifically remember going into that timeout. Bob Fitzgerald said, it's Warriors basketball.
Okay. Well,
I'm pretty sure I remember him saying, there was a neighbor at the door, but like I could have sworn that I heard him say Warriors basketball. Someone could check me on that. But yeah.
So that's the issue then. It's not the very end of the game. It's related to that weird sequence in the third quarter. I was watching the ESPN broadcast, and they were making a point of it because according to them, when they went into the timeout, they ruled it was Mavericks ball.
Okay, all right.
And then they said when everyone came back out, the Warriors just inbounded it like it was their ball. And the Mavericks were caught off guard. The referees were caught off guard, and just no one said anything, and the game just went on. So the implication from the ESPN broadcast was that the Warriors just kind of took the ball, inbounded it, and played, and no one said or did anything about it at that specific moment. Let's say for the sake of argument, like, have you ever seen a contest like actually be successful? I mean,
in the G League, I have.
So what would happen in this case? Like, let's say Cuban's actually successful with this.
I don't think he's going to be successful here.
Okay.
Like, the play happened in the third quarter. Like, you can't just say that it was going to be a tie game if he scores that bucket because it was 127 to 122, and they gave Reggie Bullock a 3. Like, it was an absolute garbage 3, right? Like, they're not defending. So, like, had it would have been 125 to 122, they would have defended Reggie Bullock a little differently down the stretch, maybe even fouled him. Like, I think that's bogus. Like, I don't think they should grant that it should be converted or whatever. But I remember this is my second year in the G League. The Fort Wayne Mad Ants and the Texas Legends, which is the Mavericks G League team,
Okay.
Coincidentally enough. It was a game in Texas, and they had incorrectly said a player on the Mad Ants had 6 fouls, and they lost like a 2-point game, and it happened late or whatever. It was something like that. Like the book was wrong, and the person only had 5 fouls or something like that. So they replayed it at the G League showcase in Reno like 2 months later or 6 weeks later, and I called the game, and Eduardo Nahara, who was like maybe like the very, how do I say this? He was not nice to officials. I'll say it like that. You can hit me offline if you want to hear what he called some officials in the G League.
Fair enough.
But like the PR director told me, like, I was talking, and they ended up losing the protested game. I forgot what they did. I think they just played like a 3-minute overtime period. And they got waxed by Fort Wayne in this 3-minute overtime period.
Wait, that's how they resolved it? They resolved
because,
it?
I think because it would have gone to overtime otherwise or something like. I forget this was 9 years ago now, so I forget the exact context. But basically, like, the Texas PR person talked to me after the game. It was like, oh, I could see our Eduardo Nahara was looking over at you or your broadcast, and it looked like he just wanted to kill you. So it made me laugh.
So what you're saying
I wasn't the first person Eduardo Nahara wanted to do damage to in the G.
Wait, so just real quick. So what you're saying is
I've seen a protest work before.
In theory, if Mark Cuban protests this game, the NBA could come up with some weird scenario like to where they might play a 5-minute game or some sort of makeup.
This actually also happened with Santa Cruz Warriors. Now I'm just remembering this 5 years ago. There was some call that got over, we ended the game. I think it was they didn't catch that Iowa had, it was in Santa Cruz. They didn't catch that Iowa had 6 players on the floor or something like that. Should have been a tech. I forget what it was, but they came back last weekend of the regular season. We played the last 5 seconds of the game over. It was a tie game. We ended up inbounding the basketball. It got stolen. They get a layup to win. And then we played the actual game we were supposed to play. It was like a 15-minute warm up. And then we lost that too. It was just like a disaster but I've seen protests a couple of times in the G League work. So I don't think.
I've never seen it in the NBA. I don't know if you've ever seen that.
No, I can't remember it, but those were actual procedural things that went wrong. I just think they could see they could see that it's Warriors basketball. They're all standing
I just can't believe that in theory it's possible that a protest could be accepted and they could create some weird on-court scenario to make it up. I don't see that happening, man.
Crazy if
I don't see that happening. But just the fact that that's even there, even the fact that there's a smidge of possibility is bizarre. And not to mention the refs. I thought I bitched about them on social media. Retzel writes there were 3 times at the end of the game where the Dubs had loose ball fouls on them. I remember Anthony Lamb getting, I think, called for a foul. That was absurd. Or maybe, do you remember that scenario where was it? He got called. I can't remember what happened, but then I know Dante DiVincenzo got called for a foul that was absolutely ludicrous.
When Jaden Hardy fell to the floor,
yes, yeah, I remember I
thought Dante was clean on that play, but if you're on the side of the refs are going to lean towards whistling that just because the rules are so in favor of the offense. I thought Dante did nothing wrong there.
Nothing. It was just the whole refereeing tonight was absurd in my opinion. It was more egregious than usual. If there's any pattern I've noticed is that it's a lot worse on road games. Not surprising, obviously. I mean, that's part of home court advantage, and the refs are human beings, and psychologically, I wouldn't doubt that they're swayed by 15, 20,000 people all yelling at them. But so that's something the Warriors I think have to just keep in mind. And I don't know if they've forgotten about that or what's going on, but they've been affected by it more than most on these road games. And tonight I thought was particularly egregious though. When we come back, let's talk about that final play, which is absolutely incredible. And we'll talk about the standings just because there's only 8 games remaining now. This win was huge for the Golden State Warriors. First, got to give some love to FanDuel. Do you have a stake in the March Madness game, Kevin?
I wish I could. I can't.
Because Stanford sucks? Is that why? Is that what you say?
No, just because the NCAA has like arcane rules about not being able to bet on college.
Oh, well, yeah. Well, you can't bet on anything, right? I mean, you're
Yes, but so that means I can't fill out a bracket or anything.
Oh, you can't even do that. Okay, well,
No, like I fill out one for fun. I
that's
hate doing stuff for fun that I should be doing for money. That pisses me off.
it's one of the perks of being an adult. Absolutely. Well, the March Madness tournament's heating up, and now is the perfect time to download FanDuel, America's #1 sports book, because no new customers get a no sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's bonus bets back if your first bet doesn't win. Plus, FanDuel lets you combine your bets. They'll let you do anything pretty much. Whatever you want to bet on, FanDuel's got you covered. Don't miss the chance to get your no sweat first bet up to $1,000 in bonus bets when you go to fanduel.com/locked on. That's fanduel.com/locked on to learn more. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the National Basketball Association.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Warriors your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get podcasts. The chat is making me laugh while we have these brief moments of respite. One final segment, Kevin Danna. You could follow the man, the myth, the legend on Twitter at Kevo4Wade. You can follow me, Cyrus Saatsaz, on Twitter at Dogsurf Roadshow. That final play was wild. Stephen Curry, who finished the game tonight with 20 points, he did have 13 assists. Shot 50% from the field, was only 2 for 8 from beyond the arc, though. But again, he made the game winner, and that game winner was largely thanks to Draymond Green clearing a beautiful path for him. I feel like if the refs were going to call anything that would have been somewhat legitimate, it might have been on Draymond at the very end there for clearing, for basically just having his arms out and having a beautiful open road for Stephen Curry, who drove it in, laid it up, made the difference in the game. Draymond Green, I thought, had a solid game, by the way. Finished with 14 points, 8 assists, only had 4 rebounds, but he made that 3 late in the game. That was huge. Was 6 for 10 from the field. Give me your assessment, Kevin, of the Splash Brothers, because I thought Steph was a little tentative. Maybe he's been tired from the road trip. I don't know. 20 points is below his average, his standard. And then Klay Thompson only had 9 points tonight. He added 5 rebounds and an assist. Was only 1 for 4 from beyond the arc. Klay didn't have the greatest of games. Your reaction to the Splash Brothers?
Well, like Stephen Curry was seeing 2 and 3 defenders all night, so he took 2 shots in the first quarter, and he had 5 assists in the first quarter. I thought he was just fine. I thought he had a really good game. 20 points, 13 assists, 3 turnovers. I mean, obviously, you'd like to see him better than 2 for 8 from deep. But, I mean, one of the threes he hit was just the toughest 3 of all time at the end of the second quarter. I forget who was guarding him. Maybe it was Bullock, or just stepping back, had him draped all over him, and then just flings up a prayer from the right wing and buries it. I thought Steph played a pretty good game. Yeah, I mean, obviously it wasn't Klay's best game, 4 of 9. There was 1 3 that I was that's not one he should take. But then again, it is Klay Thompson. Not everyone's going to be on fire every game. I mean, generally he's been playing very well, and so I was not super concerned. I'm not super concerned about Klay Thompson going 4 for 9 tonight.
I hear you. It was just it was weird that he only had 9 shot attempts. I think that was the most glaring aspect of his night. He just was not very aggressive. And just,
outside of Steph, no one had more than 13. It was pretty evenly distributed tonight. The shot.
Oh yeah, you're right. And that player who had 13 shot attempts was Jordan Poole, who went 0 for 4 beyond the arc. I thought he did okay. It wasn't great. It wasn't
assists, no turnovers. He had
there you go.
I mean, there was 1 or 2 players who was wish Jordan could have done better there. But outside of that, I mean, third quarter, he had that blow-by dunk. He had, he dimed a few people up. And in his last 2 games of this road trip, 14 assists, 2 turnovers. So You love to see that for a guy
Yeah.
who can rack up some high turnover numbers. And I mean, with the balanced scoring, they didn't need. No one was really shooting the three all that well. I'll say Kuminga was 2 of 3, Lamb was 2 of 5, DiVincenzo was 4 of 10, but they shot barely above 30%. They were 31% from 3 tonight.
Correct.
And Fitz made this point all game long. They were 38 of 51 on twos. It's like 75%.
That's good.
On twos.
Yeah,
And
good.
so like, yeah, just go inside all day on them. And yeah, that's why I wasn't super surprised with the last possession of Steph Curry getting that wide open layup, because like they just couldn't defend the paint. They're like the 6th best defending the three. They get some really good closeouts and stuff, which we saw, but like inside, I mean, they were getting eaten alive.
No, I'm with you. And by the way, I'm sorry for the people in the chat who want the chat, the stream showing on the screen. I'm no longer allowed to do so. But nonetheless, we're reading all of your comments. The standings right now, I'm looking at them. This game again was massively huge because the Warriors win the tiebreaker of the Mavericks. They're back alone in the 6th seed right now. The Warriors are 38 and 36. They're just a half game behind the Clippers for the 5th seed, a game and a half behind the Suns for the 4th seed. They hold a 1-game lead over the Oklahoma City Thunder, who are now the 7th seed in the Western Conference, a wild Western Conference that right now, if you're looking from seeds 5 through 12, just 2 games separate them in the loss column. That's it. It's insane. But one thing that happened yesterday, which I still feel like is really going under the radar, and that is Paul George getting injured for the LA Clippers. This was an injury that happened late in the game. Even his own teammates were not aware that he injured his knee. He was down for a period of time. From what I was reading with the attributions, most of his teammates and even coaches thought that he had like a head injury, that he bumped his head. No one realized that what it turns out is a hyperextended knee. I think that's what I read today. Going to be reevaluated, I believe, in 3 weeks. That looked like an ugly knee injury, though. It would not surprise me if we do not see Paul George, at least again in the regular season, if not through a decent amount of the postseason. And without Paul George, the team that, in my opinion, is the biggest threat to the Golden State Warriors, the LA Clippers, I don't think are any longer a massive threat. They're still a really good team, but Paul George is the 2nd best player on that squad. And the Warriors right now are just a half game behind the Clippers. They play the 76ers next Friday night. That is a team that always plays the Warriors tough. We got 8 games remaining on the season. How are you seeing this thing play out, Kevin? How are you feeling about the Warriors in terms of playoff positioning and maybe beyond? Your thoughts?
I mean, like, I know they're 3 back of the Suns in the loss column, but they have 2 more games at home. And the Suns don't have Kevin Durant right now.
Correct.
And the Clippers don't have Paul George. Like, 4 is not out of the question. And especially if they can get some momentum from these these last 2 road wins. I know they have I'm pulling up the schedule right now because they got their 3 remaining road games. Denver, all right, that's not going to be easy. Sacramento and the Blazers. Well, Portland's out of it. Portland's going to be playing their young guys, I think, like a good chunk. I would not be surprised if Damian Lillard doesn't play that game. Like, that's a winnable road game for sure. If they get that one road win and lose and go 4-1 at home, 43 and 39, that's at least, I think that gives you a chance to be 4 or 5. And it's certainly you are out of the play-in for sure at 43 and 39. So
okay.
I feel like they can avoid a 40-loss season. And
that would be huge.
That gets them. I think you want to avoid Memphis and Denver in the first round. And with the mojo that Sacramento has, I'm not sure I'd want to play. I don't know if they're a deep run playoff team, but in the first round, it's like the Warriors, right? A great fan base who hasn't had a playoff team in a while. Dallas Mavericks found out in 2007, that was a recipe for disaster. I would not want to face the Sacramento Kings in the first round. Maybe I'd want to face them in the second or the third, but the first, no. Because I think Sacramento's at least getting to the second round this year.
Even if they play the Warriors first round?
That's going to be a tough one for Golden State to win. I have more confidence against them playing the Suns or the Clippers without George or Durant. And I don't know. We've been on the other side of that bomb of a home court advantage.
Yeah.
How if you thought 13 years was a long wait for the playoffs, well, it's been 16 years for Sacramento.
Yeah.
Those fans, they're not going to let Sacramento lose at home.
I still don't think the Warriors lose to Sac. If Wiggins plays, I don't think they lose to anyone. Real quick, we haven't touched on Guy Santos yet. Yeah. And look, you're the voice of the Santa Cruz Warriors. You see Guy play a lot. And let's make this a two-part question real quick, and we'll finish up real fast with Gary Payne the second. Guy Santos, your thoughts on him, and also Lester Quinones, who got, I believe, who's now technically on the rosters. He's a two-way deal, I believe.
Yep.
Do you feel like it would be a detriment to play him this late in the season? Your thoughts on those two players?
Guy Santos, I think, should get a two-way contract next year. I think he can't be called up this year. He's a draft rights guy, so they're stashing him. He's been very solid. Here's the thing about Guy Santos. He improved his vertical by 3 inches during the season.
How do you do that?
30 inches.
How do you do that?
Then he got it up to 33 by January or February.
How do you do that? Are you just jumping every day? Is that what you do?
Works with the strength coach, sports performance coach. Andre Madsen's done a great job with him with his testing across the board. That's the only number I know in particular. But he's got a flair about him, a panache to the game. He fits the Warriors system really well. I think he should be on a two-way contract next year. He's been playing well. He's averaging about 10.6 rebounds, had 13 plus last night. I can't remember exactly what he finished with. He's hitting around 33% of his threes, but I could see him easily hitting mid to high 30s from deep over the course of his career. He's 6'7" with a 7'1" wingspan, man. And a +6 wingspan in this league is huge.
Yeah, exactly.
And especially the size he has. I think he's a perfect Warrior. I think he's a rotation player in the NBA by the time he's 24 years old, and he's 20, 21 right now. Give this guy 3 years, and I think he's an eighth man in the NBA.
There you go. And Moses Moody's another player with a 7'1" wingspan. Played just 7 minutes tonight. They won.
He did well when he was out there.
What's up?
He did well when he was out there.
I agree, and he did well the last game as well when he played 8 minutes. I really wish he would get more of a run, but look, better than nothing. And again, I care most about wins. I think that's what the priority should be for the Golden State Warriors are W's, and they got a huge one tonight. Gary Payne II, the news should come out any day. I believe tomorrow is the 10-day mark, right, where we get that reevaluation. Reports are that he is practicing with the team. I don't think he has engaged in a scrimmage yet. Do you have any information on Gary Payne II?
I don't. I'll find out when everyone else does.
There you go.
Yeah, but if they can get him back, and if they get Wiggins back, I won't count the Warriors out in any playoff series, even if it is Sacramento. I just think Sacramento would be the most dangerous first round opponent just because they haven't been in the playoffs 16 years. I'm not counting the Warriors out in any playoff series if they have GP2 and Wiggins back with a healthy Steph, Klay, and Dre and Looney. I wouldn't want to go up against that.
Well, it's good you said that. I literally had this email queued up, ready to send to Joe Lacob. And in the subject header, it said, Kevin Danna thinks Sacramento will beat the Warriors. And I was about to send that thing. And then
to answer the traveling Urquidez's other question.
Yeah.
The Santa Cruz Warriors need to win their final 2 games, and they need both two of Mexico City, Sioux Falls, and Salt Lake City to lose 1 game. Basically, they don't have a head-to-head tiebreaker, but in a 3-way tiebreaker for 2 spots, Santa Cruz would get in. I don't want to. I could explain all the tiebreakers, but I doubt your fans, your listeners, want to know about G League tiebreaker playoff scenarios.
Maybe on a bonus episode. I'll tell you what, if the Santa Cruz Warriors go in the postseason, let's dedicate a show just to that. Let's do a bonus episode. I'd be down for that if you are, man.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I got nothing.
Always down to talk C-dubs.
Hell yeah, let's do that, man.
Oh, and you asked me about Lester Quinones too, didn't you?
Yeah, go for it real quick. Yeah.
So he's eligible to play in 7 games. They have 8 left, so he can play in almost all of them. The Santa Cruz Warriors like winning in the G League. Not every team cares about winning in the G League. The Warriors do. Like they are putting more of an emphasis on development these days. Back the first couple of years, it was only about we're winning, and assignment guys were there to help us win.
Yeah.
They still care about winning though, and I think it would be tough to take Lester. It would be a detriment to the Santa Cruz Warriors to not have him there. I'll say that.
Yeah, Joe asked, "How's PBJ? He's been in Santa Cruz, right? Is he? How's he
played
looking
last
there?
night?
Yeah.
He had 8 points, kind of a quiet game for him. 8 points. Like his 3-point percentage is like 10 percentage points better in the NBA than it is in the G League. It's a little interesting. Quite honestly, I'd rather him be 10 percentage points better from deep in the NBA than the G League. I'm fine with that. But it's tough when you're not practicing with the team every game and stuff. It's tough for and joining them on the road and stuff like that. So, but he's had some really good games for Santa Cruz. I remain very optimistic about his future.
I love it. Great to hear, man. Well, this was a fantastic game for the Golden State Warriors. Again, their next game is Friday. They play the Sixers. Is that correct? Am I accurate? Okay, and that's a big one. Of all the players in the NBA that give Draymond Green trouble offensively, there's only one, and that's Joel Embiid. I've never seen another player legitimately give Draymond hassles. Like Draymond can hold his own, but Embiid is he's a huge dude. He's multi-skilled. He's one of the only players that Draymond doesn't have a huge edge over mentally. Yeah. It's an interesting battle when they duke it out. So that's going to be Friday night. If the Warriors are going to lose a home game, I feel like that would be it, but I hope they don't. But again, kudos one more time to Jonathan Kuminga. What a night for him. Give him his minutes. 30 minutes tonight, 30 minutes, 30 seconds, more specifically, 9 for 11 from the field, 2 for 3 from beyond the arc. Jimmy Chidwood in the house, finished with 22 points, led the team, added 3 rebounds on the night, and great defense on Luka Doncic as well. I shouldn't forget that because he was assigned to him defensively for a lot of plays. And Douglas is asking about my Bulldog. He's not in the room right now, so I can't show him. But I'm going to go join my boy Larry Krueger next. You want to come with me? What are you up to?
I can't. Yeah, sorry.
Oh, it's all good. It's all good, man.
Yeah,
well, what are you up to? Where are you going? Why can't you? How dare you say no? What's going on?
I got other work to do.
I know. You got to do your thing. Yeah. All right, man. Folks, thank you so much. This was a huge win. We'll be back at it tomorrow. I think Kylo Mills joins me tomorrow. Follow us on Twitter at Locked on Dubs to find out what time we're going to be recording that show. Follow Kevin Danna on Twitter at Kevo408. The voice of the Santa Cruz Warriors, the voice of numerous college athletics, the voice of sometimes the Golden State Warriors, the voice of sometimes the LA Clippers, the voice sometimes of Victor Wembanyama's France club, and so much more. Did I forget anything? Anything else you need to promote?
Nah, you got it all. Thank you.
All right. Yeah, thank you, man. Pleasure's always all mine, brother. And we got to do our dinner soon. We'll figure that out when. Thank you, everyone. What a game. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.